introductory segment members. And now I would like to move to the first session of our event. This session is about energy and about fair access to energy in informal settlements. And we will start with a 15 minutes presentation from Mr. Andrei Dodonov, who is the consultant for the Sustainable Energy Division of UniCE. And as Oleg anticipated before, this is going to be a very interesting and thrilling case and will certainly stimulate interesting discussion. So, Andrei, the floor is yours. Please share your presentation and we will time you.
Yes, as you already told, Matteo, we have a 15 minutes for the short presentation. So, dear colleagues, good afternoon, good evening. So it's pleasure to present this part of the, let's say it like engineer part of the global project. And let me just briefly present the background paper actually which been prepared in view of the energy efficiency, renewable energy and minimum energy performance standards, this relation to the informal settlements. Let's have a focus to the presentation. So I will briefly present all of the content of the this paper, but mostly focus to the conclusion and recommendation. So let's get it started. Wait a second. Matteo, please tell me, my screen is visible now, right?
Your screen is visible, but you are not in full screen mode. Now you are.
Okay, great. So, dear colleagues, I would let me just briefly introduce. No, as I already told and Oleg told that this project will result in the development of global project of post-COVID-19 recovery action plan for informal settlements for the selected countries and cities which been already listed. This is the Tirana, Bishkek, Podgorica, and Skopje for upgrading and formalizing informal settlements and supporting cities in the recovery from pandemic. This study is aimed at discovering reasonable energy access opportunities for the unformalized construction, which is supposed to have a specific owner. These identify needs in sustainable energy supply. Let's briefly present the structure of background paper. It contains the main chapters, which is related to the ways to ensure access to affordable and modern energy. Specific energy requirements of energy efficiency and renewable energy, minimum energy performance standards, and the last chapter is this is the conclusion and recommendation. So one of the areas that needs to be addressed for informal settlements is the access to affordable and modern energy. Actually, this includes issue of energy efficiency, renewable energy, minimum performance standards, a comfortable living condition. All of those aspects have to be addressed when considering formalization of informal settlements. Let me just emphasize one aspect. Informal settlements, this is the, in our selected cities, in view of the construction, this is the typical buildings which is related to the residential sector. But the differences is just in legal status. So informal settlements do not have a legal status of property. So, but the construction site, example giving the envelope structure is the same, supporting wall, this is the same percent of deterioration, the similar construction elements such as doors, windows, slabs, but there are some kind of specific here that due to the illegal status, some informal settlements do not have an opportunity to be connected to the external grid, like electricity, or example giving for Kyrgyzstan. Bishkek have the well-developed centralized district heating and some district connected to the main district heating system. So some informal settlements due to the illegal status could not be connected, and actually it's matter to form own approach to generate and consume the energy. No, for example, it also forms the structure of heating domestic hot water or electricity systems. It has to be also taken into consideration. So following possible solution could be considering for improvement of both electrical and heating energy supply sustainability. In report, it's listed in details, but let me just emphasize the main points. This is the implementation of different type of the subsidies, as well as the improvement of the payment system. So also let me say that specific energy requirements for the informal settlements in selected cities could be formulated as the set of minimum energy performance standards covering various aspects of energy needs in such types of the buildings that are mandatory for legalization, as well as the set of supporting measures aimed at achievement of those standards for inhabitants, residents of the buildings who wish to formalize their buildings. Also, let me state that improvement of the energy efficiency is an important component of sustainable supply of electrical and heating energy for informal settlements. This is also very important point here, that increase in energy data transparency. This is the also very important point in view of implementation of different type of the energy efficiency or renewable energy technologies, because there is getting the energy, the process of energy consuming is transparent and gives the utility company the ability to supply the good and reliable parameters, because if in case if illegal connection to the external grid, actually the companies utilities are covering these expenses by themselves and by considering as the losses. So actually the transparency of energy data and transparency of energy consumption actually makes a clear process for connection to the grid in order to supply a good quality and interrupted parameters. Also, let me emphasize one very important point, that as I just already told, due to the specific moments as the illegal status of the informal settlements, actually there are the implementation of some renewable energy efficient technical solution, such as for example, solar PV systems or solar collector system for domestic hot water preparation, or use of the biofuel boilers is the efficient and makes sense in terms of the in view of decentralized approach for heating or electricity generation. Also, let me emphasize one very interesting and useful aspect, which also listed into the report, into the background paper, that all relevant energy efficient solutions and measures for retrofit of informal settlements and their level of strictness and enforcement of performance in accordance with the current energy efficient legislation, building codes and standards in each target country presented in the report. Actually, here you can see a short summary of the results. Based on the results of the analysis, the most applicable energy efficient solution, as well as the renewable energy efficient solution, could be identified. And here we, in the diagram, I show the direction which shows the most used energy efficient and renewable energy technologies for informal settlements retrofit. As you can see that it starts from the basic energy efficient measures, such as use of energy efficient appliance, and then based on the descending order is going down to the measures which has the high cost, high initial investment cost. Here we can see that then it goes installation of roof, technical flow slabs, and then installation of different type of the boilers, installation of external facade of the building, or part of installation of part of the building, and etc., etc. I kindly ask you to refer to the background paper, where you can see the detailed and exact information regarding the assessment of implementation in terms of the strictness and enforcement in accordance with the standards, different energy efficient standards and codes relevant for each of the country. And also this background paper includes the list of eligible energy efficiency legislation, including the standards and codes. Building codes and legal regulatory requirements contain main energy performance indicators. Those indicators could be divided in two groups: common energy performance indicators and minimum energy performance standards. To meet both of the parameters, it takes ensure thermal comfort, energy efficient use of resources, and define uncertain issues of the legal status of the housing properties, as well as uncertain permission for connection to the external grids from different local utilities companies, as well as the availability of forming legal form of the home management, such as condominium, home owners association, etc. Common energy performance indicators and minimum energy performance standards should be applicable for informal settlements that are in process of formalization. And all of the indicators presented into the report, into the background paper. So that's the extraction one of the table, which shows compliance of the defined minimum energy performance standards. These are the common energy performance indicators for informal settlements in selected cities. So you can find, again, more detailed information into the background paper. So let me emphasize the main points for conclusions, and then the last will be a recommendation. Conclusions. Improving building infrastructure and energy access for residents of informal settlements has immediate impacts on people's lives, as well as the benefits for public health and the environment. In addressing the demand of communities in informal settlements in selected cities for electricity and heating sources, this properly formalized status of the connection at an affordable price, a possible answer may be supporting the use of set of minimum energy performance standards covering various aspects of energy needs in such type of the buildings that are mandatory for legalization. This is a possible grace period, as well as the set of supporting measures aimed at achievement of those standards for those inhabitants who wish to formalize their construction. Also, we would like to conclude that changes in the existing legislation may be necessary in those countries where energy building codes do not include prescriptive requirements for improved energy efficiency. In those countries, energy efficient solutions are rarely implemented, mostly through different pilot projects funded by different organizations. And let me bring one example. If we see the modern energy efficient standards and codes in Kyrgyzstan, there are positions where there are no obligatory requirements as far as the implementation of different energy efficiency standards and codes for the existing residential buildings, which is less, where the common square area less than 150 meters. So here we can see that some of the informal settlements could reach less than 150%, which means having the existing legislation, the application of some energy efficient measures is not feasible, as there are no mandatory requirements. So now let me go to the next point for conclusion. Based on the result of conducted analysis, the following practical measures could be implemented. The legalization process and retrofit of the buildings in informal settlements of selected city could start. These the measures that do not require significant initial costs, such as the use of energy efficient household appliance and replacement of incandescent bulbs, these LEDs. Medium cost measures for enclosing structure, like installation of modern energy efficient window insulation of the attic floor or roof insulation, upgrade or installation of modern boilers depending on the type of fuel used, wall insulation. However, it is unpopular due to the high capital cost. Implementation of renewable energy technologies such as solar collector system or heat pumps, due to the high due to the high initial cost, it could have very limited applicability to residents of informal settlements. So last chapter is about the recommendations. The target is adequate energy service are provided to informal settlement residents, which includes making them affordable and modern, improving efficiency, using renewable energy where applicable, and complying with the minimum performance standards. Availability of such energy service creates greater community resilience to pandemic and other health threats, greater equity, strong economic opportunities, and help safeguard human rights for most vulnerable people in societies. And actions. There are 6 actions. Identify detailed characteristic of the energy services relied upon by the informal settlements residents. This should include a variety of energy types, efficiency, theft of energy, and ways to prevent it. Delivery and payment methods, sustainability, and existing gaps. This is the minimum performance standard that are in place. Define that economic, social, and health risks are posed by the current characteristic of the energy service. This should include inadequate indoor and outdoor air quality, inadequate water supply and sanitation, high energy cost, degradation of green spaces, potential fire hazards, and any other identifiable negative factors. Study available opportunities for improving energy efficiency and reducing risks. This should include more efficient appliance incentive for introducing energy efficient measures, including subsidy, which we already mentioned, back-end pricing model, flexible payment system, energy cooperates, and etc. Employ where appropriate renewable energy source as well as the waste to energy, and distribute generation energy options. Distributed generation in informal settlements can be a good early step on the progression up the energy ladder, as it avoids some of the major pitfalls like faced in expanding energy infrastructure. And the last, strongly consider application of minimum energy performance standards for informal settlements as a prerequisite for the formalization. A grace period may be applied after formalization and registration of the residential building before formalized settlements need to be in compliance with the minimum energy performance standards. In that period, necessary steps need to be taken by residents, and assistance should be provided by a local authority responsible for formalization. Developed a specific framework for co-financing of energy efficiency measures and renewable energy solutions. Together, these education initiatives on efficient use of heating systems and domestic appliances, this should become a core part of the post-COVID-19 recovery strategy in informal settlements, especially taking into consideration the aspects of critical importance of sustainable energy supply during the pandemic lockdowns and restriction. Dear colleagues, thank you very much. I hope I fitted to the 15 minutes, and I kindly ask you to put all of the questions which could be discussed during the next time, during the time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, Andrei, for this excellent, very comprehensive presentation. Thank you for raising the implications of disconnection of informal settlements, also from the infrastructural and energy perspective, and also on the implications of raising efficiency in energy in informal settlements and how wide and ramified these implications are, but also for raising the point that also in the energy, from the energy dimension, the issue of data and data transparency. So how do we get to know better these spaces is also critical, and we will come back to some of these points across our different sessions. And now I would like to hear what our two discussants that we have for this session have to add to what you just presented, and to bring out some critical perspectives on this in order to advance the discussion. I would like to invite on stage first Mr. Alexander Dukovsky, who is the chair of the UNICE group of experts on energy efficiency. Mr. Dukovsky, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Theo, and thanks to Andrei for the good presentation. Andrei raised some quality questions with regards to what are the, let's say, the prerequisite for any informal settlement to be formalized in a more humane way. Because technically, when we talk about energy efficiency and we talk about what Andrei mentioned, minimum energy performance standards, that technically means that in that dwelling, you are actually living a comfortable and let's say normal quality life. What we actually see in on the field when we visit these informal settlements, we see that we can look this approach from an energy perspective, and we can look at the energy demand, the connection to the infrastructure, the efficiency of the home, and then we have this socio-economic aspects of it, where usually these informal settlements are actually people that are either in or on a brink of energy poverty, which creates additional problems how to solve these issues that Andrei mentioned to increase the efficiency, and with that to increase the quality of life in these dwellings. Good thing is that Andrei noted the problem with infrastructure, because when we see, for example, in a typical informal settlement, those are informal because nobody planned for them, then nobody did analysis on how development and how many what would be the density of the people in that area. So any utility that does business there, they already structured their infrastructure size according to the let's say calculated number of people, which in normal circumstances does not happen, and that affects the infrastructure in a difficult way, which then transfers that to the dwelling. For example, if we see a typical electricity grid, instead of 220 volts, for example, you get 180 volts, and then you buy the most efficient electrical appliance, and it breaks down in 3 to 5 years. And why does it break down? Because the quality of the electricity is nowhere to be found. How to solve that? It means another investment in a better infrastructure way before people can buy these electric appliances. So it raises some complex questions. What goes before? Do we invest first in infrastructure and then we invest in energy efficiency, or do we fix the socio-economic problem, get subsidy to get them out of this energy poverty, and then hopefully they will use that additional income to make improvement in their homes. So it's a depending on from a policy perspective, depending on which side are you going to go. If you are going from the socioeconomic side, then it's another type of development. If you're going from the energy side, it's another type of development. What I liked is definitely that in order to lessen the burden that the infrastructure is going to have when formalizing this type of informal settlements, and in any case to actually increase the quality of the services already given to these people, we definitely need to look at this minimum energy performance standard in order for those type of dwellings to be a priority when formalizing. I wouldn't say that every dwelling would be possible to achieve this minimum energy performance standard. I mean, we already been to some of these places, and in some cases the dwellings are in that shape that whatever you do, you cannot fix what is broken from the ground up. But it is a start, and this type of selecting who would get formalized first according to a minimum energy performance standards would be a viable option, because those dwellings will have the least impact on the infrastructure. On the other hand, so just to mention something, on the other hand, what happened in Macedonia is that for the past 10 years, every 2 to 3 years, we have new laws to just formalize those settlements without any prerequisite, and that creates another wave and another type of chaotic situation in cities. Thank you, Mateo.
Thank you very much, Alexander, also for bringing up the complexities and the socioeconomic and political complexities that underpin efforts in increasing energy efficiencies in informal settlements. And on this perspective of bringing out the complexities of this, I would like to hear from Mr. Artan Leskovicu, who is the director of the Department of Renewable Energy Sources of the National Agency of Natural Resources of the Ministry of Infrastructure and Energy of the Republic of Albania. Mr. Leskovicu, the floor is yours for a quick feedback on Andrei's presentation and your perspective.
Hello, good afternoon. The informal settlement, really they are the problematic in our country, and in meantime or so, I wish with my colleague for the good presentation regarding for the informal settlement. Just to inform something regarding Albania, so in our country, we are working step by step in order to formalization informal settlement. But anyway, in order to look to prepare, let's say, the good strategy, a lot of area that are informal settlement is not safety due to for each government prepare, let's say, prepare the strategy in order to develop the formal area, and sometimes the different informal settlement destroyed and build the new one. So the problem is very, very complex in order to, let's say, to prepare the exact strategy. But anyway, for according to my experience, we're working in order to create, let's say, the safety urban area in order to calculate and to prepare the real strategy to improve energy efficiency and to also to use renewable energy. I think it is too difficult to prepare the special law regarding for the informal settlement, but anyway, because sometime we are working in order just the informal area to let's say to formalize to invest for infrastructure, to prepare the new road, to prepare the new electricity grid. I fully agree with my colleague from Macedonia. Also, there are problematic, let's say, the quality of the voltage due to the bad, let's say, connection of electricity. Use low voltage below 220 kilovolt, and sometime you know, the government do not look with attention this area, because just to say, okay, this area is only for a while, and there are the plan to let's say to destroy it, to build the other thing. So fully agree with you. In the parallel with the strategy of urbanization, it is necessary also the energy group, or let's say the energy specialist, is better also to prepare let's say the strategy for security supply for energy, and meantime also to use the energy with efficiency, and also why not to use renewable energy. But anyway, informal area, just my idea, it is too difficult to, let's say, to prepare the special law and special, let's say, special norm to use energy for this area. This is my experience, but anyway, I think it is possible for this area to prepare some special action plan in order to present, let's say, the strategy of the government in order to use the energy with efficiency. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Mr. Leskovicu, for this very interesting perspective on the need to parallel urbanization efforts with energy efforts. We already have a lot of questions coming in from the audience. We do not have too much time to deal with them, because we're already a little short on time. But there are a couple that I would like to present to Andrei in particular, and then also to our discussants if they have something to add. One in particular is from Chrissy Posiu, who is one of the lead authors of the Recovery Action Plan. And she basically is asking about negative and positive incentives. Do you consider the option that instead of fees and penalties for formalization, there will be a regulation that people will invest these assets in energy efficiency improvement for the informal constructions? Very briefly, Andrei, do you have an answer to this? And then we'll get to the other questions. Andrei?
Yes, I'm just trying to find the questions. So this question came from Poizo to everyone, right? Do you consider the option that instead of fees and penalties for formalization, there will be a regulation that people will invest those assets in energy efficiency improvements for the informal construction? Dear colleagues, first of all, let me speak on behalf of the engineer, because I'm the engineer. And for me, it's very important to consider firstly all of the relevant and active the energy standards and codes, which actually fully comply and fully refer to the residential sector. This is the similar one. So the like the differences is just only this the legal status, but the set of the standards and codes are pretty the same. So this is the one situation. Here the question is about the energy efficient improvements. From my perspective, dear colleagues, from my perspective, I fully support this Dartan, who emphasized that first of all, we need to improve the quality of connection to the external grids. So the second maybe option, the second option which should be taken into consideration, this is the like incentives or some kind of stimulation program for installation of energy meters, because actually metering system, this is the base point for further actions. In my perspective, in residential, for informal settlements, actually the energy efficiency, this is the secondary. Yes, it maybe sounds strange, but the energy efficiency actually in informal settlements usually are a secondary item, because the ensuring the thermal comfort living, this is the primary condition, and the people who are living in informal settlements actually first of all focus to resolve any issues regarding the like ongoing actual problems, and sometimes no, like to improve their inhabitants, to improve their buildings, and sometimes there are no relation between improvement, this is the energy efficiency, and energy efficiency actually this is the secondary, and implementation of energy efficiency might be in the case where the strong and mandatory legislation in terms of the refurbishment of the residential sector, for example. Yeah, that's my some open thoughts. I would like also to ask maybe to the, because I also have found that some of the questions in our list of the questions actually related this the some kind of legal aspects, and if anybody from the listeners have the some experience, please share this us regarding the legislation or some incentives, how it's realized in some cities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrei. We really are running short of time, so I will just point you to a couple of other questions. One is the one from Sharif Kinawi about the private power infrastructure that informal settlements have developed, and if it's a leading or best practice to consider these as microgrids, assuming they can comply with the standards. And if there's any case studies about successful engagement of these private energy infra owners. Very briefly, do you have any feedback on that, either you or Oleg? So about the self-developed power infrastructure of informal neighborhoods. Are they microgrids? Yes.
If it's not a problem, I can get in on this question.
Sure, go ahead. Just very briefly, please.
Very briefly, yeah. Well, the problem within our region is that technically we have quite strong regulation on whatever it is on infrastructure side. So to have microgrids that are connected to the existing infrastructure would be very difficult from a regulatory standpoint. Even if it's heating or electricity, it would be very difficult. Those type of microgrids are usually being used in a more remote areas where existing infrastructure is non-existent. So that is from my perspective. But I think that the future with decentralized generation, microgrids will have better foothold once also the other regulation becomes more accustomed to see microgrids engage within the grid itself.
Thank you very much, Alexander. That was
Matteo, sorry, and
Yes.
I also catch up one of the question from Bagram Jalalian to everyone. That's strange somehow that LED technology is on the sixth place by popularity in terms of the order, given the probability shortest payback and loss. Fully agree. Actually, this is in the same how we say the replacement of the bulbs is on the same level where the use of the efficient home appliance Vagram. And also, let me just briefly give the comment regarding the ventilation system. Actually, the typical structure for ventilation system is that this is the natural inlet ventilation and some mechanical or also natural outlet ventilation. And it is not the measure to how we say, there are no special ventilation system which could fight, let's say it like this, the COVID-19. This is the typical ventilation which aim to replace the some particular exchange rate like 60 or 70 cubic meter per hour for kitchen, for example, and there are no issue regarding the COVID-19. It's more related to the ensure hygienic requirements and condition inside the room by eliminating some kind of vapor, moisture, or some kind of.
Thank you, Andrei. Thank you, thank you. There are a few other technical questions that are very interesting. We do not have the time to delve on those now. I recommend to continue the conversation going in the chat for the time being, and then we will tell you about a mailing list that we are building in which this conversation and the others that will come up with the next panels can continue fruitfully. We'll speak about this briefly at the end of the workshop.